Opening suffering first. Have you ever noticed how fast it happens? One message, one tone of voice, one look that feels dismissive. And before you even understand what's going on, your body is already choosing for you. Your jaw tightens, your stomach drops, your mind starts building a case like a lawyer who never sleeps. Maybe you don't explode, maybe you stay polite, but inside, there's heat, there's a storm. And later, when the house gets quiet, it keeps playing. That moment rewinds on a loop. What you wish you said, what you wish you didn't say, how it felt to be misunderstood. Again, that kind of pain can feel so personal. Like someone reached into your chest and pulled a wire. And the hardest part is this. It can make you feel powerless. Not because you're weak, but because the trigger feels automatic. Like other people have access to buttons inside you. So, tonight, let's talk about a different kind of strength. Not the strength of winning arguments, not the strength of being right, the quiet strength of becoming less movable. Not numb, not cold, just steady. In Buddhism, there's a simple insight. What hurts us most is not always what happens, but what we grab in the moment it happens. And once you understand what the mind is grabbing, the trigger starts to lose its grip. Before we go further, one gentle note: this is for reflection and learning. It's not medical advice or therapy. If you're carrying heavy trauma or deep anxiety, support from a qualified professional can be a real kindness to yourself. Now, let's begin where triggers actually begin. The hidden hook. Most triggers are not really about the other person. They're about what the moment threatens. It threatens your dignity, your sense of control, your need to be respected, your need to be seen as competent, your need to feel safe. Sometimes it's old. You're not reacting to your coworker. You're reacting to your father's disappointment from 30 years ago. You're not reacting to your spouse's tone. You're reacting to every time you felt dismissed and swallowed it. And because it's old, it's fast. The Buddha used a word that gets translated as clinging or grasping. In plain English, it's that tightening inside. That moment your mind says, this shouldn't be happening. They shouldn't talk to me like that. I shouldn't feel this. I need to fix this right now. I need to win this right now. That tightening is the hook. And once we're hooked, we don't just respond, we react. So this episode is built around 7 gentle lessons. Not commandments, not rules. Just 7 ways to see the hook, loosen the grip, and come back to yourself. And if you only take one thing tonight, let it be this. Peace is not something the world gives you. It's something you stop handing away. Lesson 1: detachment isn't cold, it's freedom. Detachment is a misunderstood word. It can sound like, don't care, like, be above it, like, shut your feelings off. But that's not what it means here. Detachment means stop tying your identity to outcomes. It means caring, without chaining your inner life to approval, control, or winning. Because the truth is, many of us live like we're renting our peace. We rent it from people's moods. We rent it from a boss's feedback. We rent it from family dynamics. We rent it from being seen as the reasonable one. And rent always goes up. Think about a time you felt triggered. If you look closely, the pain often has a sentence underneath it. How dare they? Don't they know who I am? They're not seeing me. I'm going to lose respect. I'm being treated unfairly. Detachment doesn't say those things don't matter. It says my worth isn't held hostage by this moment. A person can praise you, and you stay steady. A person can insult you, and you stay steady. Not because you're stone, because you're rooted. Like an old tree in a storm, the branches move but the trunk stays. That's not weakness. That's clarity. Lesson 2. Observe, don't absorb. Here's something most people never get taught. Just because someone brings emotional chaos into the room doesn't mean you have to take it home. Some people walk around carrying a storm inside them, and when they speak, it rains on whoever is nearest. It's not always intentional. It's often pain. But if you absorb it, you suffer twice. First from their storm, then from your own spinning. Buddhist mindfulness is simple at its core. It trains you to notice what's happening without becoming it. A thought can appear without becoming a command. An emotion can rise without becoming your identity. Instead of I am angry, it becomes anger is here. That small shift matters. Because anger is a weather pattern. It moves through, it changes. You are the sky that can hold it. There's an old image in Buddhist teaching: if someone offers you a gift of anger, you can refuse it. If you don't accept the gift, who does it belong to? It stays with the giver. That doesn't mean you pretend nothing happened. It means you don't swallow poison just because it was offered. Lesson 3. The power is in the pause. There is always a small space. A tiny gap between what happens and what you do next. Most people miss it because the nervous system is fast. It's trying to protect you. It's trying to restore control. But the pause is where freedom lives. One breath, one heartbeat, one moment of noticing. Something is happening in me. That moment changes everything. Because the first surge is often not wisdom. It's conditioning. It's the part of you that learned long ago. Attack before you're attacked. Defend before you're shamed. Speak fast so you're not powerless. The pause gives you a different option. Not the loud option, the wise option. And what's interesting is, meditation is basically practice for the pause. You sit. You breathe. A thought comes. A sensation comes. And instead of obeying, you notice. Over time, the nervous system learns something new. I can feel this, and not become it. So, in real life, when the email comes, when the tone hits, when the comment lands, you start to find the space. Not perfectly, but more often, and more often becomes a new life. Lesson 4. Let the fire burn out. When someone throws anger at you, it can feel like a challenge. Like if you don't respond, you lose. But many arguments aren't conversations. They're invitations. Invitations into someone else's fire. And the Buddha offered a truth that feels almost too simple. Anger doesn't end anger. It multiplies it. So if someone hands you a torch, you don't have to grab it. You can let it burn in their hands. That's not about being passive. It's about being careful with your life. Because every time you fight a meaningless battle, you pay with something real. Your sleep, your digestion, your relationships, your sense of self. So a quiet question becomes powerful. Is this worth my peace? Not can I win? Not how do I prove myself? Just, is this worth my peace? Sometimes it will be worth speaking. Sometimes it will be worth setting a boundary. But a boundary doesn't require fire. A boundary can be clean. I'm not continuing this conversation in this tone. I'm going to step away now. We can talk later. And then, the fire starves. Lesson 5. Wise silence. Silence is not the absence of strength. Sometimes silence is the strongest thing in the room. Not the silence of fear. The silence of restraint. The silence of a person who has learned. Not everything deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Not every opinion needs to be met. In the modern world, we're trained to react. React to the news. React to the comment section. React to the family group text, as if your value depends on your response time. But wisdom often moves slower. There's a kind of silence that protects your dignity. Someone tries to bait you, and you don't bite, not because you have nothing to say, because you have something more valuable to keep: your nervous system, your heart, your ability to come home to yourself. Silence can also be internal. The real noise is not always out there. It's the mind replaying old scenes, judging, rehearsing, forecasting disaster. So sometimes the practice is simple: to become quiet inside for a moment, to let the mind rest. Not forever, just for one breath. Lesson 6. Acceptance ends the inner war. Acceptance is another misunderstood word. It can sound like giving up. It can sound like approving of harm. That's not what it means here. Acceptance means stop arguing with reality in your mind. Because the mind loves to say, this shouldn't be happening, this isn't fair, they should be different. And some things truly are unfair. Some things truly are painful. But the mental argument adds a second layer of suffering. It's like being caught in the rain and screaming at the sky. Either way, you're getting wet. Acceptance is the moment you stop the extra fight. This is what is happening right now. I don't like it, but this is what is happening. And strangely, that honesty can bring relief. not because the situation is good, but because you stop exhausting yourself with denial. Acceptance can also apply to people, not acceptance as permission, acceptance as clarity. This is who they are right now. This is the pattern. And then from that clarity, you can choose how close you want to stand. Sometimes acceptance is what allows boundaries without bitterness. Lesson 7. Focused energy. Over time. Here's the part most people miss. The mind changes the way the body changes. Not by one big decision, but by repetition. Small, steady returns. In Buddhist practice, there's a word that points to this training mental cultivation. In plain language, you become what you practice. If you practice reacting, you get fast at reacting. If you practice pausing, you get better at pausing. This is especially important in a time like ours. Distraction is everywhere. Your attention gets pulled in 1,000 directions, and scattered attention makes the mind fragile, like a flashlight beam that never stays still. It can't warm anything. It can't light anything. But when attention becomes steady, life feels different. Not perfect, just less chaotic inside. A small daily practice can be enough. One breath before replying. One moment noticing the body. One honest sentence. This is anger. One decision. I'm not picking that up. And when you fail because everyone fails, the practice is simply returning. Again and again. Not with shame, with patience. A real story, receiving insults without taking them. There's a story told about the Buddha. A man comes to him angry, insulting him, trying to provoke a fight. The Buddha listens. And when the man finishes, the Buddha asks something like, if someone brings you a gift and you don't accept it, who does it belong to? The man answers, it stays with the person who brought it. And the Buddha gently points to the truth. Anger offered but not received stays with the one who carries it. Now, whether every detail of that story happened exactly like that isn't the point. The point is the mirror it holds up for our lives. How many gifts have we accepted that were never meant to help us? How many heavy rocks have we carried just to prove a point, a historical lens, when whole generations learned to pause? In the early 1940s, many families lived with constant uncertainty. Letters arrived with news people feared. Money was tight. Sleep wasn't easy. In times like that, war, depression, loss, people learned something that modern life sometimes forgets. You can't control the storm, but you can control how much of it you bring into your own home. Some people became cruel, some became numb, and some became quietly steady, not because they didn't feel fear, but because they didn't feed it all day long. They focused on what was right in front of them, one meal, one conversation, one act of care. That steadiness wasn't perfection. It was survival with dignity, and that's not far from the Buddhist path. Not escaping life, meeting life, without adding extra suffering whenever possible, closing an open ending. So maybe the goal isn't to never be triggered. Maybe the goal is to notice sooner, to feel the hook, and loosen the grip, to remember. A trigger is often just a place inside you, asking for protection. And protection doesn't always mean fighting. Sometimes protection means pausing. Sometimes it means silence. Sometimes it means acceptance. Sometimes it means walking away from the fire. Life will still bring storms. People will still have moods. The world will still be loud. But inside you something can grow quieter. Not empty. Not disconnected. Just steady. And maybe that steadiness becomes a kind of freedom. Not the freedom of controlling everything, but the freedom of not being controlled by everything. If you're listening tonight and you've been feeling easily shaken, easily exhausted, maybe nothing is wrong with you. Maybe you've just been carrying too much that was never yours to carry, and maybe one breath at a time you can begin setting it down.